And welcome back to the second and final segment of our show this morning. We have been joined on the couch by Dr. Sharmayne Saunders and, of course, Nigel Encalada, the Program Officer for the University of the West Indies and the Director of the Institute for Social and Cultural Research, respectively. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
The discussion this morning will be centered around the first National Research Conference. So we want to know, what is that all about?
All right. The first Belize National Research Conference. What happened, Isani, thanks for the opportunity to be here, Marlene. I'm processing. I'm still awake. But what it is, it's a joint effort of 4 institutions, NICH, UB, Galen, and UWI, to showcase the best research that has been done in the country. One of the things we've been at it, all the institutions have a research mandate, and they've been at it for as long as the institutions exist, but we've been operating in pockets. And sometimes the research conferences and functions are done internally. So they're held at UB for their students, they're held at Galen for their students, and so on. But what we have decided to do now is to come together to have a national conference, which will, in this first instance, give us an idea of what kind of research is being done in the country by both Belizeans and non-Belizeans. The theme of it is research and development in Belize. We anticipate making it an annual event because one of the things we want to do is to ensure that whatever research is being done in Belize can be applied to development. We want it to be meaningful. We want it to relate to our education sector. We want it to relate to our tourism sector, agriculture. So we want to see that the research drives development, and that development relies on research. Everything from just the more obvious example, the crime situation, we're dealing with the social issues. We want it to be an informed development process, right? So that because we're dealing with scarce resources, both in terms of human capacity and in terms of the available financial resources to do research in Belize. And that was the other reason for coming together. The institutions are all dealing with limited human resources. And so by coming together, we're looking toward sharing, capacity building, so that Belizeans, and this is one of our primary functions, Belizeans will be able to develop the skills to do research about ourselves, to look at ourselves so that we can make decisions. And so that is the concept behind this conference. Earlier things, just from a historical standpoint, I need to know we have to look at the history. The earlier initiatives would have been things like SPARE, the Society for the Promotion of Education and Research, this national studies. Other initiatives would have been the Journal of Belizean Studies, the Journal of Belizean Affairs at SJC and UB. But we have not systematized that. So in this modern day, where we are, it is well understood within developing countries that for us to develop properly, we need to rely on research.
Absolutely.
And so that it informs the development process. So this is the modern version going forward in an attempt to ensure development.
It's a very broad number of topics that you're covering, and I think if I could liken it to anything, it would be the archaeology symposium, where we get to find out the research that is taking place, but this goes into the other areas as well. Having all these institutions come together, there's a lot of information that takes place. Dr. Saunders, tell us a bit about some of the work that has been taking place at UE and how you will be making use of this opportunity to put it forward.
We primarily, the students are asked to do studies for their final graduation requirement, and there's no avenue with exception of some students who reach out and do publications. UA is regional, so UA has an opportunity. We have a Caribbean journal that students can publish in, but it's also an opportunity for our lecturers to also work with the students to do papers and present their papers, strengthen those papers as well. There are some key areas that focus is being placed on, and I wanted to share some of those with you. There's a paper by Dr. Ishmael Hoare, Philip Morgan, Falope, and Agu and Marta Coulter entitled Domestic Violence, Perceptions of Indigenous Populations in Belize.
Yeah.
And we have a paper on rehabilitation and social distance in the Belize Central Prison. That paper is done by Kevin Whiteacre and Amanda Miller. And then David Gomez presents a paper, Canals and Borders, Economic Diplomacy and the Belize Territorial Dispute between 1845 to 1865. I'm highlighting some of these because I think the topical areas are very important for people who are drawn to these areas.
Yeah.
We have a paper by David Gibson. It's called A Comparative Analysis of Belize, Guatemala, and the Guyana-Venezuela Border Disputes. Very crucial in this time that we're exploring our border situation and analyzing those disputes, right? And then Eric Neal presents a paper on Indigenous Peoples in Belize, Guaranteeing Security and Rights for All. Carla Hushner presents Beyond Bekalam, Belizean Women's Short Stories and the Formation of a Transnational Literary Tradition. And then Dr. Percival Cho, no stranger to us, he presents on the Maya Forest, Ecosystem Resilience in the Face of Global Change and what the future may hold for Belize's biodiverse forests.
Yeah. So we see some science.
It's a great mixture. The pillars are very solid, right?
I was able to read Eric Neal's, because his was his thesis for his master's degree.
See, they get
And
an
he was able to
opportunity.
share that with me. And in the context in which he wrote about the Maya, and we look at the issue of national security and what have you.
Right.
I think that was not only clever, but profound, because I am certain that I didn't see it in that light before, and a lot of people weren't looking at it from that perspective as well.
You know, a lot of people is saying it could be in Eric Neal's paper could be would take offense to it, but you have to keep in mind he's a military man, and he's looking at the indigenous people and the role in Belize's national security. Right, and so that is an important. It could be controversial, but at the same time eye-opening, as you're suggesting. You know, I think it's one of those. Eric Neal is I think in line at some point to be the country's brigadier general, theoretically, no? And so we need. This is how research plays a role in developing leadership as well. This is Eric Neal is a very good example. He was a classmate of yours, am I right?
Certainly.
Right? You know, so this is exactly.
One of your students too?
Yes.
So, you know, who is your target audience for this? Because there's so much information. In fact, I look at it and it is going to be a long day.
It's 2 days.
It's 2 days.
2 days.
And hopefully everyone keeps on schedule because I'm sure everybody wants to be able to get their opportunity. But who will be privy to this information?
Okay. So we're inviting students, faculty members, the general public, people who have specific interests. And of course, when we say the general public, we're looking at NGOs, the civil society, the public sector as well, because there are issues on tourism, there's issue on domestic violence, there's a grand list of topics that will really reach out to specific areas that you may be interested in.
I'm so happy you mentioned the public sector, especially because one of the things we speak about is making decisions based on data. If we go back to our original conversation with crime, I've been asking a long time, where is this study that our crime strategies are working, not working, effective, not effective, or somewhere along that spectrum? So you're inviting, I'm sure, representatives of the different ministries, so that they can hear this data, because maybe they don't always have access to it.
Right. One of the national name means that it's designed that anyone can walk in and listen, right? We have invited all the CEOs, for example.
Fantastic.
We have reached out through phone calls to tertiary level institutions. We've been doing promotion in social media and so on. And in particular, we're interested too in a young demographic because the interest, we want to generate it early and to foster and continue to stimulate that natural interest that exists based on the realities of the society. So it's really for anyone to be able to walk in and to interact in that space. One of the key things, though, Marlene, is the idea that the conference is also a space for peer review. So anyone can present, but you're also, by being in that space, people can challenge your positions, your conclusions, and so on. And so one of the things we intend to do is we will not publish all of the papers. We will only publish a selection of the papers, right? Those that are able to, after the conference is finished, so those who are able to refine their papers and submit, those are the ones that will be published.
Nice.
One of the things that we have done in the past is that we take research papers and we go and deliver them to the various ministries, right? With the hope that the information is used. But keep in mind, it is still, in spite of what you see here, it is still a young initiative. You have experienced researchers in the country, yes, but those can't do it all by themselves. There's so much to do, right? So this is it's also a capacity building initiative at this phase, you know. And so we take your point indeed that.
And in
but
truth,
we know it's a lacking area.
And in truth, when we look at the formation, it's really embryonic, but in truth, we're also looking to encourage students and other persons who are interested in research to, when you're there, you're able to see people who are doing research in specific areas. And there's a level of mentorship that can occur because you will see who's doing research in your area and you can reach out, you have an opportunity to reach out to that person and partner with them. A lot of these papers that are being presented are collaborative papers. They're done not only with Belizean, non-Belizeans, but because it's, as Nigel rightfully said, it's part of it is to nurture and to also create a mechanism that we're not doing things in isolation. It is about Belizean, about Belize, but there's also that level of understanding that you can get some type of mentorship and that others who have been doing research is willing to collaborate as well. So that gives a space for people to see you can do research. You know.
So some of these are linked with international
yes,
universities
international,
as well.
regional, So there's linkages because of the topical areas.
How are the selections made for the conference?
We have a working group that with representation from all of the institutions. We sent out a call for papers. We received the proposals, the abstracts, and they're reviewed in terms of the quality of the proposals that are received. And so the selection is made in that way. So it's a process. We all look at it, we analyze it, and it's scored. And then the best ones are invited to participate. That's how that works.
The best ones as in the most sound research or the most interesting that will appeal to the public?
But the quality.
Okay.
But further to that, we still didn't just discard papers. There's also, you'll notice, an opportunity where people are going to present posters. That's another opportunity. And as researchers, we know, it gives you another opportunity to showcase your work, but not in the format that you had hoped when you made the submission. But then it also helps us not to eliminate people because remember, we're building capacity. Right? So there is no paper that were thrown aside or cast aside. They were still given another option whether they want to present it as a poster, and that's given a space in the
You know, Marlene, you asked the question to Dr. Saunders, made mention of having the opportunity. Three things come to mind. One, the quality. There are standard ways in which these things are presented. Two, the interest and relevance to the country. And then thirdly, we're only dealing with 2 days. So we have to try and get at how we configure it and all that, no? So we have a good mix. I think about half are Belizeans, half are foreign researchers, sometimes sitting on shared panels and so on. So I think it's going to be a good experiment, no?
This is going to be, I'm just looking at the sheer numbers and why diversity. Is it going to take place at the same time, or is it, are you setting up two separate areas, or is it all just one after the other?
They're mostly plenary sessions.
One after the other.
Yes.
We thought about that. But we thought too that people might miss.
Yeah.
You might have conflicts where you might,
Yeah.
if you're attending this, you might not be able to listen to the other.
Yeah.
So we set them up in that way.
Okay.
Hopefully, when we have 100 submissions in the future,
We'll have
we'll be able
concurrent
to, we'll be able to
sessions.
do that sort of thing, you know.
So we're looking at
Yeah.
around 20 different presentations being
Over
made.
2 days.
27.
27
Yeah.
over
And the
2
posters.
days.
Yes.
That is a lot, and there's some really interesting topics. I mean, I'm watching it and I'm trying to figure out how I can be in Belmopan, but
But we want to encourage people.
Yeah.
The way it's set up, even if you're not able, we want standing room. We want it jam filled, the Jaguar Auditorium. But even if you're not able to come for the entire day session, there are topical areas. We've publicized our schedule, and so we want to encourage people to pop in and listen to the areas that you're interested in. Make time to hear, and then at the end of each session, there's a discussion session, and that may also benefit you in terms of contributing as well.
yeah. Now, the conference itself will be held in Belmopan at the UB Jaguar Auditorium. You said it's open to everybody. Is there a cost associated?
For the members of the public, it's $10 per day.
Okay.
Students, we have decided, will be able to attend for free if they bring their school
ID.
ID.
Okay.
And then we'll go from there, no?
And you're looking at a full day of sessions?
Full day.
For
We go
full
from
2 days?
Yes.
Okay.
8:30 to 5:30 and so on. Which are short days, no?
Now, I have to ask, what are some of the presentations that you're most interested in seeing for yourself or seeing the reaction from the public? Nigel has it on the tip of his tongue. Let's go.
Let him go.
Well, I like the Eric Neal paper because
Yeah.
of the controversial. It can spark controversy.
So his paper is called Indigenous Peoples in Belize, Guaranteeing Security and Rights for All.
Right.
And he's looking at how indigenous people affect security?
The role of indigenous people in national security. He makes the point that the military is made up of, I think, around, about 40% indigenous people. And as such, you should think about that when thinking about national security matters. Right? Keeping in mind, too, that indigenous people live in
cross-border
Guatemala
relations.
and so on, right? So that's interesting.
Okay.
Another good one is by Dr. Rebecca Zager, and it's called Avoiding Dispossession
At Home.
Now, one of the interesting things I found out...
Scale of tourism development, environment, and changing livelihoods on the Placentia
Yeah, that's
Peninsula.
Placentia.
Okay.
She uses Placentia as a case study. But why that is interesting is because, and the literature is there, but one of the realities here in Belize is that coastal land is largely foreign owned.
Yep. Hopkins is going the way of Placentia. St. Bite has long since gone that way. It could be argued it's like a form of gentrification, right?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
That is the point, Isani. Avoiding dispossession at home. Imagine that these communities are now in danger of disappearing. And not only are they coastal communities, but they belong to indigenous, cultural populations in the country.
That rely on the coast.
So
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
so it's
Yeah.
it's eye-opening, no? So it allows us forces us to think too. What about the value of land to ourselves, right? And in the communities where we live. And if you lose that, what are the long-term implications for you and your family and your children and so on, no?
I see some obvious environmental-based research as well. I'm very interested in the language presentation, Spanglish, Creole, and Kitchen Spanish. Why language mixing matters and what we can learn from it.
That's Nicte Fuller, right? Is that Dr. No, Nicte is a Belizean researcher.
Okay.
She recently returned home, and she is one of the, and they're very proactive, and you will see that she'll be one of the leading researchers in language in Belize. She's already doing a lot of work on the ground.
Wow.
And it's critical because Belize is a multi-language space.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And one of the
supposedly an English-speaking country.
Yes. But the key thing there is this, just from a cultural perspective, the idea that one language is not inferior to another. It's critical to self-identity and the colonial period. it was ingrained that if you speak, just as an example, the Yucatec Maya, that was inferior to Spanish. To elevate your status in society, you had to be able to speak Spanish. Now there's a shift now taking place. I want a Garifuna, Yucatec, you know, it would be, that is the Renaissance Belizean then.
Yeah.
Right?
And even with the Ministry of Education and Early Childhood, they promote the children speaking their first tongue
yes.
as they start off on their educational journey. So that is really, but yet we still see struggles with adults being able to speak or communicate in proper English. So that's fine. And there's also a focus on one very critical area, which is performance in mathematics and English language proficiency. Fascinating, What about you, Dr. Saunders? What are you looking forward to?
I am fortunate I get to moderate the social perspective papers, and you know my interest in raising awareness for domestic violence. So definitely the paper by Dr. Hoare and team is of interest to me. I also found one very interesting, the one by Ismail Tiol, Estimated International Tourist Preferences Related to Ecotourism in Wildlife Sanctuary, Belize. And I think it also stems from looking at what's happening in our areas in terms of tourism. You know, we are focused primarily on overnight tourism, but there's other options.
Absolutely, and I'm very sure the territorial dispute presentations will be ones that people will look forward to. And I also see one on special needs, literacy. There's so many different topics. This is definitely going to be an opportunity for people to learn so much of research taking place in this country, or that has taken place.
You know what makes David Gibson's paper interesting is because he is farmer ambassador. And but he presents another perspective on how to go about dealing with the claim, right? And I think every person should be there to listen to that, because of the lack of guarantees in
going to the ICJ.
Well, he doesn't want to complete
I will let him, yes,
there's a little smirk behind his face here that piques my interest.
But he has he makes a solid argument. What you could.
Now, some may say that hearing this type of information sometimes can be a bit provocative. It provokes people either to see things differently, disagree outrightly with people's perspective. Is that part of what you want to encourage in the discussion with those who are there?
It's definitely part of the capacity building. It's allowing people the space to consider different perspectives. But not only that, for you to be able to contribute to something, you have to do your own analytical research. You're in a position to discuss things because you've heard different perspectives, and you can go, okay, I beg to differ on this, or there's another perspective here that I see, and you can bring those together. Gone are the days when we say, no research in Belize, everything is anecdotal. We only hear or what we see, which is...
Or assumptions, we can only make assumptions.
That's a part of research too. You know, you want to buttress the anecdotal aspects of it with solid, whether it's qualitative or quantitative data, you're going to go out there and buttress that. So this space will give people that opportunity. We welcome it. I mean, there's an opportunity after each presentation for discussion. It's not a long period, but we're welcoming that as well.
You know, in the space, there is no, because this is a critical thing, thinking that you might not ask the right question. But if you ask the right question, you will not get the real thing you're looking for. There's no such thing as a wrong question, you know.
Thank you.
People are intimidated to ask questions because they don't know. But the fact is, if you don't know, that's when you ask. You understand what I mean?
And we must embrace when we don't know something.
That's right.
But I do believe, and that's part of, if I'm just the what you have as your lineup, it will be a wonderful mental exercise to hear all this information, question it if necessary, press further for deeper details, and really an engaging experience. It should be a tour. Bamapan, Belize City, where else? But you'll start off. It is the first conference, so let's get the details once again.
So it's Wednesday and Thursday at the Jaguar Auditorium. Dr. Joseph Palacio will be the keynote speaker. He opens the conference. Dr. Joe is Belize's most experienced anthropologist. He was the first Belizean archaeological commissioner. A lot of people don't know that. He is the guy who Dr. Arway and Dr. Morris and Alan Moore, they started under Joseph Palacio. And he has written several books. He's been consistent over the course of his life. He was at the resident tutor
he was
at
a resident
UWI.
tutor for years at UWI as well, where he did a lot of research. And he still continues to do research. I see him all the time in our library doing research and writing papers.
And I know we tap into him when we need him for some historical perspective on stories as well. So that should be interesting. Well, best of luck. We really hope that people do come out in large numbers, standing room only, as you pointed out. And how can people see the schedule if they want to figure out if they want to visit?
All right, if you go to the Institute for Social and Cultural Research Facebook page, it is there. It is also on the niche page. It should be on the Galen Facebook pages. If you notice, we have gone, sorry, Dr. Saunders, we have gone technologically advanced. You see the little, what do you call the QR code. Students sitting, or anyone sitting in the conference can scan the code, and the conference program and everything will pop up on their phones, and they'll be able to follow it real time and so on. We plan to live stream a few of them as well.
Good.
Right? Using.
I'll be able to see some then.
Yes.
And anyway,
tell
you
us the
see
one
the
you want to see,
flyer,
Marlene.
you can code as well. So.
Well, best of luck. This is a great initiative. And of course, once again, if you want to get the schedule, you can get it on the Facebook page of the different partners and make an effort to go out and learn some new information of research done in this country. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks as well.
We're going to go ahead and take our final break, and we'll have our wrap-up, so stay tuned.